You're listening to From There to Here, a Star Trek Enterprise podcast. Hello, my name is Josh, and with me is
Justin.
Today, our episode is Season 1, Episode 8, Breaking the Ice. And from the IMDb, here's the synopsis. Enterprise discovers a comet which contains the very rare element eisilium. Then, unexpectedly, a Vulcan ship arrives. Captain Vanik tells them they're interested in human behavior. This is rated as a 7.1. Which is kind of low. I'm actually surprised. 7.1 out of 10.
Okay. And from Wikipedia, again, this is episode 8, directed by Terry Wendell, written by two people whose names I'm not going to say.
Give it a shot. Try to pronounce it. It's funny.
Maria Jacquemetin?
Swisswiki?
Swisswiki. With an original air date of November 7, 2001. And a little bit of trivia. I'm going to read this verbatim from Wikipedia. Writer Chris Black asked the production crew if they could, quote, turn Stage 9 into the surface of a comet, and was surprised and impressed by the response, quote, yeah, when do you want it by? The surface of the comet was actually put onto Stage 9.
Is that right?
That's right. Which TNG used and TOS used. I think TNG used it for their Planet Hell sets.
Planet Hell?
It's what the actors always referred to as the underground tunnels and stuff because it was always hot and crappy in there. So it was Planet Hell. I'm pretty sure that's the Stage 9 that's just basically used for.
Is that where they would have shot Hide and Q?
Probably.
Yeah.
You know, and
muskets.
tunnels like inside, the end of Insurrection was shot on their Planet Hell sets where they were all hiding underground from the Sona transporter beams. Yeah.
That was really?
Yeah. Of course, it was movied up.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
But yeah.
Okay. All right.
So moving forward.
Well, hold on, Ensign. This landscape's about to change. I like the metaphor there. I mean, the episode is called Breaking the Ice.
Yes, it is.
It's a play on words there. They're breaking the ice of a new relationship, I guess, with the Vulcans.
In a lot of different ways. There's a lot of ice breaking. Sure.
Yeah. I liked it.
Ice breaking with the Vulcans. There's the ice breaking, in a manner of speaking, between T'Pol and Trip.
That's true.
And the literal ice breaking.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Which, of course, is
the larger metaphor.
Representing the larger metaphor of their breaking the ice into. They found something new.
But they're forcefully doing it, though. You know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what the Vulcans pointing out. You know, you're kind of going out there and brazenly doing things.
Well, in fairness, all they were actually doing was just drilling into a comet to get some stuff out.
Metaphorically speaking, though.
Yeah. But that's really all they were doing. You know, which anyway, let's.
Well, I'm actually quite shocked that on the IMDb it only has a 7.1. I thought this episode was
a good episode.
Really good. I thought it would be rated much higher.
Yeah.
The previous episode on here was rated as an 8.0.
Right.
It's well, that's interesting.
And you and I had different thoughts.
And I thought it was still good, but I thought this one was much superior.
I really enjoyed this one. This, of course, has your. I don't want to say it's a Star Trek standard. I think a lot of hour-long shows do this. You know, an A and B plot, and I thought the A and B plots were both interesting, and both completely different. And in this case, not wholly related to each other. Part of it's connected to the fact that the Vulcan ship is there, but that Vulcan ship could have been anywhere, and that B plot still would have happened. But I like that they're not connected, and it's just a personal story going on at the same time as this, you know, investigative mission type thing. And I enjoyed the episode on a whole quite well. I thought it was a good episode, and it doesn't dominate the episode, but I really enjoyed the T'Pol subplot.
Yeah, it was good.
The B plot.
You know, am I crazy, or did her wig look really bad in this episode?
I wouldn't say it was bad, but I didn't notice it. In all fairness,
maybe it was a bit more obvious.
I don't know. Maybe they were styling it a little differently or something.
I'm not sure. And I don't know what she did with her hair during this. Did she cut it short, or did she just tie it up and then they tried to hide it?
I don't know. If you really look at that, if you get her from the profile, I think you can tell. You know, they've folded up her longer hair under there.
Okay.
And they can get away with it and just make it really tight. It's probably. I bet it's not comfortable.
I wouldn't imagine it to be.
But I guess you got to get used to it unless you want to cut your hair. So
yeah.
And she probably didn't want to. I wouldn't imagine she.
No, I don't think so.
So she'd probably tough it out.
Although, I mean, even if she had she still looks great with short hair.
We know that. I mean, but, if you're the
loss.
person, it's probably not something you're eager to do. But, yeah, I mean...
Well, I mean, she didn't have to shave her head like somebody.
Yeah, what's her name? Lieutenant Ilea? Yeah, poor thing. But anyway, yeah, I really liked it. And I'll guess I'll just focus on that for a minute. The
T'Pol and Trip
T'Pol
relationship.
B-plot.
I liked it was a little corny, but I liked the callback at the end with the pecan pie.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
that's something that does start at the beginning of the episode. Where
set up at the beginning.
Trip offers her a pecan pie, and she says Vulcans don't eat sugar. And he said, look, it's
not
bad for your body, but it's good for your soul.
Yeah.
And he takes a bite, and he's like, I feel better already. He really builds it up.
Yes.
And the episode buttons with her having gone through her ordeal, which we'll talk about, but the camera pans down. And I had totally forgotten this.
Yeah.
To a pecan pie in her quarters, and because after what she's gone through, her soul needs a little help. And I like how they did this.
It was a quiet way of, even though we knew she took his advice, that she really was listening to him.
No, it was. And
even though when they had that interaction, it wasn't. She was a little antagonistic.
Well, she was.
Yes.
But I think this is a really, really good example on this show, and the show does have examples of this, despite some of its flaws. I feel there are things that are forced in a show, this show, any show, and things that happen organically. And for whatever magical reason, when a movie or a TV show, the writing of it, whatever comes together and it just feels right. And, I addressed this very clearly in the pilot episode, which is only 7 episodes removed from this. And Trip himself was very antagonistic towards T'Pol. And then I forget what episode we watched where he was, it was, what did we watch? We talked, help remind me, where we talked about T'Pol being part of the family. And, it was Andorian incident where I questioned, or I thought it would have been interesting if Archer had said, look, I know you're part of the team and all, but these are Vulcans. So, if shit goes down, who are you really behind? And you said, no, she's part of the team and all that. Because yes, in the span of these now 8 episodes, she has been, in her own limited way, acclimating to the crew and becoming part of the crew. She may not like everything she sees, but she's thinking of them as her crew. So, and Trip is lightening up with her. And so as the plot goes, there was an encoded message sent to the ship. They kind of just came across it. Hoshi found it and said, hey, look at this, just because it looks suspicious. And they realized it was sent to T'Pol's quarters, and there's a Vulcan ship watching them. So they I think, reasonably were curious, and it looked suspicious. And, we're still only 8 episodes in. If this was season 4, I don't think they would have done anything about it. But Trip felt obligated, and he decoded the message, and he looked, and he realized it was a personal message. So out of guilt, he told the captain, he's like, I want no part of this. You do what you need to do. And Trip approached her and told her the truth. And she was upset about it, and she just kind of left it at that. But then she saw Phlox, the doctor, and she was clearly stressed. She had a tension headache and all that. Whatever this was stressful and personal. And he ultimately, Phlox, encouraged her to talk it out with someone, which led to the scene where she calls him to her quarters, and she confesses. Well, she doesn't confess it. They talk about the fact that she has a prearranged marriage, and being on Enterprise has put that in jeopardy, and she's clearly conflicted, and she is outright asking for his advice, and he gives it to her. And like you said, it's not like she just took it and walked away. She kind of, back and forth with him about it, but it felt organic. It felt, this is one of those times, especially early in a series and in a season, I should say series more than season, but you don't run into these moments this quickly early on, I think, when people are still finding their characters, there's attempts at relationships being established, say, in Voyager, that don't necessarily pan out in those first 8 episodes or so. Not a lot or anything, but they're feeling it out. They're feeling out what actors work well together and where it's natural. And I wish I knew, but with the producers and the writers, if they had a plan to put them together. I mean, I'm willing to bet they didn't, knowing that later in the season, especially, they have moments with Archer and T'Pol. So I think my guess would be this was one of those moments where they thought, what character would be best to see this message? What would be most interesting? Trip. Of course it would be Trip, because they've been at each other, So what a great person to find it. And Trip, when he's faced with talking with her about this personal thing, he's just trying to help, and he's trying to be a nice guy. She doesn't really know how to process this information, but he's trying. And this is the first step that connects them. And I enjoyed seeing that, especially knowing where it goes. But even if I didn't know where it goes, if I was watching this cold up until now, I enjoyed it. I felt like that was Trip and that was T'Pol. Nothing felt like it was being forced on us as an audience. They were forcing like the decon scene, which felt forced. This felt natural. And I really enjoyed that because we got a real sense of these characters. And then it buttons with her ultimately not so much taking his advice, because he gave her some options, basically. You can do this or you can do this. What do you really want? I think you know what you really want, that kind of a thing. And when the episode concludes, she listened to him enough to where she made a choice that didn't serve Vulcan but served herself. And that wasn't bad. He was encouraging her to say that's not bad. You have a voice for yourself, and that's okay. So she ultimately rejected this marriage thing, at least temporarily, to stay on Enterprise. And then that last bit, panning down to the pecan pie, like you said, the advice got to her more than even we realized, which was a nice button. Anyway, man, I'm sorry. I dominated that. Tell me your thoughts about this part before we get to the A plot.
I did enjoy that. I mean, I guess you would call it the B plot.
Probably.
But it's difficult to separate what I know about where that relationship will go in season 3.
Right.
But knowing that, I do enjoy the chemistry that builds between them being pretty much polar opposites.
And they do really have natural screen chemistry.
They really do complement each other well.
They do.
And it works.
You can never predict it.
I think that's probably something they noticed early on, but I think they probably had it mapped out at least in a rough sense, that they were going to introduce maybe a romantic connection between T'Pol and Archer.
Right.
But then they realized it just wasn't there.
Right.
And then they picked up that thread again from this season.
Because they saw the episodes coming together and saw that. I think that's probably what happened. Mm-hmm. They just saw it and said, this is where it is. It took them a while to get there, but
I appreciated, that the advice that they had Trip give her was, it was very honest advice. It was very good advice. She was pretty obvious though that she didn't want to do what they wanted her to do,
right?
Which was this obligation to get married. We all could see that.
A prearranged marriage.
Yes, a prearranged marriage. And Trip just made that clear. It's like, no, it's very relevant. What do you want to do?
Yeah, that's all I like that he didn't tell her what to do.
No, yeah, he says, well, what do you want? It was just a simple question. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And it's clearly a question she had thought of about herself, but
her Vulcanness wouldn't let her.
She wouldn't let her even contemplate it.
Yeah.
But when he put it out there for her, I think it made it feel okay to make to have that doubt and to question it, and it gave her permission to make a choice. And I don't want to go back there. I want to stay here.
And not to jump the gun on this too much, I won't go into any details, but her choice here does have repercussions.
Later on in, I think it's season 4.
I wish I could tell you where.
Because she does end up marrying this guy.
Yeah, but that's later. But I think this is the start of some issues she starts to have, because as we see in this episode when Vanik comes on board, and through other Vulcans we've seen on the show so far, Vulcans do not like humans generally.
No.
And she is, not only is she serving on a human ship, but now she's, by their influence, starting to do things against their tradition that they the Vulcans would attribute to being human-like traits. And that she doesn't do those things without issue. You know, she does sort of face the music, so to speak, for her change in attitudes towards things with other Vulcans. It not like night and day stuff, but it does come back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll enjoy this later with her. I like her arc in season 3. I know that is a long way from now.
Yeah.
But when she starts to explore emotions, you know, I find her to be a much more interesting character.
Oh, well, sure. Any Vulcan exploring emotion is going to be interesting.
But, you know, you brought up the Vanik character. That's the captain of the Vulcan ship, which is maybe it's a good way to transition to the A-plot. And we get to see, what's the class of ship?
Oh, gosh, what did he say?
Soral?
I know Soral class, yes, and it was the Timur.
Is that the first time we saw this type of ship?
Actually, no.
No?
You keep talking. I saw about that. Well, never mind. Previously, the script referred to the Vulcan ship as being a Surat class.
The
revisited final draft categorized the type of ship as Surat class. The ship was designed by Doug Drexler, inspired by an unrealized ring ship design from Matt Jeffries, who designed the ships in the original series. Well, so it has roots.
Yeah, I like the design.
Yeah.
It's a good-looking ship.
I like that it's not like human ships at all. It's nothing like it.
We never, in Next Gen or DS9, we never really get to see Vulcan ships.
I know we didn't in TOS. And in TNG...
But this is interesting because they're clearly more advanced.
Yes, they are.
Than Earth ships. So.
And like you pointed out in, I think it was the last episode, that Vulcans, this is a point in Star Trek history where Vulcans technologically outclass humans and have a technological advantage over them, which is an issue that comes to bear in the A-plot.
Yes, so in this A-plot, the Enterprise stumbles across this, it's a comet?
Yeah, comet.
Biggest one they've ever seen, at least they have.
Yeah.
They find that very interesting. So they want to catalog it, do whatever they need to do, explore.
Well, they find out there's some mineral on there that's
right. I read that in the synopsis.
Rare.
So the Vulcans pass by and they're interested. At first, the Enterprise thinks they're interested in this comet. It turns out, no, they're actually interested in the humans' interest in the comet.
Right.
Of course, Archer finds this incredibly off-putting. He doesn't want to be spied upon, but they say, "Sure, go ahead, watch." So
I like what Archer had to say about that. When he was in the ready room talking to Paul about it.
Oh, what was that?
And he's like, if you know something about this, let me know. And she's like, look, I don't know anything about it. I think they're just curious. And he goes, well, if Vanik is a guy that likes to watch, then let him watch.
Right. You know? So they go about exploring. Malcolm and Mayweather go down to the comet's surface, and they have some fun down there. They build a snowman. They put some ears on it.
The fact that this is, you know, I think I've referenced more than once that Reed is very stiff and British, yet he's the one that does shit like this. He's building a snowman and uses a laser torch to put its eyes and mouth in there and plugs a bomb into the nose. I mean, that's great. I love that he actually does have fun, you know. Well,
while they're exploring, they have dinner. Vanik and Trip is there.
Archer and
T'Pol are there. It does not go well. No. Archer does his best to be diplomatic, to use Earth custom.
He's trying.
Western Earth custom, you know, to be polite, ask about him. Vanik isn't at all interested. He went over there, I guess, as an obligation, or maybe he had some kind of curiosity of what they were going to ask him. I don't think he
had a bit of curiosity. I think he went, like you said, out of obligation, and it was part of maybe the observation.
I think that part. He was curious about what they were going to bring up.
He is clearly sitting there going,
"This." He's not touching the food. Nope. He's not using any kind of politeness that any one of us would imagine.
He's not even drinking
if they were invited to somebody's house.
Yeah.
He's not doing any of those things. He's very stiff. He's very unresponsive. His
one-word answers.
One-word responses. Yeah. And basically Archer gives him the boot kind of politely. He's like, oh, well, where's the time gone? Maybe you should get back to your ship.
He really does. Archer turns on a dime. Like he's trying, like you said, to be the Western diplomat and all that. And even when...
Well, he cuts the pleasantry short when he says, well, how long are you going to keep on spying on us?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, he goes from his attempts at diplomacy, and then as soon as he just like, that's it, he shakes his head, he stands up, and you're like, oh no, he's going to rip into him. And he doesn't really rip. He just goes, how long are you going to spy on us? Just to see what his response is. And then whatever bullshit answer the Vulcan
is that his response was good. He said, if we wanted to spy on you, you wouldn't even know we were here.
Right. And he's like, well, don't let me keep you from your ship. Here's the door. And basically, just kicked his ass right on off of the ship.
Well, that response, it's from the Vulcan. It's very condescending.
It
but
is.
It's like, basically, we can do whatever the hell we want, and you can't stop us, basically. And it's a power move.
It is. I mean, it's an ego-driven.
Definitely. For
move.
people that suppress their emotions, I mean,
Yeah.
he's doing that, but he's definitely doing a power move on.
For sure.
That's for sure. Yeah.
And Archer knows he's not
He's
wrong.
out. Well, he knows he's outclassed, but I
Yes,
can see
he
why
does.
it's making him upset.
Yeah.
We never do find out what he says.
What do you mean?
The captain.
Oh, right. Well, you didn't say. The Vulcan captain leaves the room after Archer's left, and he looks pretty pissed. And he gives a very pointed...
His very placid demeanor turns angry.
Yeah, and Vulcan angry.
Yeah.
And he says like 3 words in Vulcan to Paul that are clearly hostile, and then walks off.
Yeah.
And Trip asks her,
Well,
what did he say?
She never tells him.
Nope. And
Even
we never find
he
out.
asks her again, and he doesn't get a response.
No, but you know that's the beauty of the way this sort of thing is laid out. You don't know what he said, but you could guess one of 3 things
From his tone.
and it's probably one of those.
Yes.
You know, it was obviously insulting and demeaning.
Oh yeah.
And
Probably to DePaul as well.
Oh, I think it was at T'Pol completely.
Well, insulting, humans along with DePaul.
My impression is that it's exactly what I told you she deals with later, where I think it was because she was sort of at one point trying to play mediator when Archer asked him, where do you come from? What's your history or something like that? And he looks confused, and she jumps in and says, oh, it's Earth custom. They ask, things like that. It's just getting to know you stuff. And when he turns to her and says that, I got the impression that it had something to do with, you're a traitor to your species. Blah, blah, blah. Some sort of thing like you're sinking to their level. You're dirty by being in this room, like that sort of thing.
Okay. I didn't perceive it to be that way. It was clearly
like you stink as bad as these humans.
Yeah, he was
do.
clearly shaming her.
Yes,
but
shaming,
I thought
yes.
shaming her along with shaming humans.
I got the feeling it was strictly
like you're as
her.
bad as them.
Yeah, but I mean, I felt like it was really for her, just her.
You're turning into one of these humans.
Yeah, basically something like that, which
Yeah.
would be so hurtful
To a Vulcan.
To a
Yeah.
Vulcan. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like telling Spock you have feelings.
Well,
Like,
that's
hey,
what he said. He said, I find that remark insulting.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I have a feeling it was just a very pointed,
probably.
what kind of Vulcan are you?
Yeah. So
But,
after that, they set off on the comet. They set off. They're trying to dig for that element, I think.
Yeah,
they're-
so that they blow a crater
Right.
to make some distance and then start.
But then
drilling.
later, the sun past the star that they're around starts to melt the ice.
Right.
And starts to crack. The shuttle falls into a crevice or a crevasse and gets trapped. They try to grapple the ship out.
Yeah.
But they can't
What's
do
the
it.
grappler?
The grappler is their version. Well, it's a proto version of a tractor beam. It's just basically a magnetic coupler attached to some.
It's basically like at a where you would crush cars and grab it with a big metal.
Yeah.
What do you call that?
That kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, it's like that, but it's 2 of them.
Yeah. It doesn't work. Can't bring it up.
No, it gets stuck.
But this is a good moment.
Yeah.
T'Pol mentions that
There's another option.
the Vulcan ship is saying we can help you. They have a tractor beam.
Well, that's the important part.
Yes.
They offered.
The
Vulcans
offered
to
a tractor beam. Archer doesn't want to do it, but T'Pol rightly points out he expects you to refuse. So why not prove him wrong?
And she
just
pointed out
accept his
they
help.
offered it to you. You're not asking
Yeah.
them, and that was an
She's like,
important.
there's no shame
right in
in
accepting
accepting
the help.
that. And
And she said,
why?
You can,
She said, but he said it did give the impetus for Archer to take it was proving him wrong.
Right.
That's why he did it. He's like, I'm gonna do what he thinks I'm not gonna do.
and Archer knew that.
Yes.
Or not Archer. I'm sorry. T'Pol.
T'Pol knew that, but when
so
Archer
she
realized
totally
that, he's
played
like,
him.
yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she was right to do it because Archer would have probably let those two just burn up in the sun. Before,
He would have kept trying.
He would have kept trying until it was maybe too late.
Maybe.
Out of sheer obstinance.
Yeah, probably.
Which we can understand because when you have someone act that way towards you, you
Yeah.
don't want to accept their help.
Well, one moment we skipped over
Oh yeah.
when they were making that video recording for the school,
right.
which is about, I don't know, it's in the beginning. This is in the first third of the episode, I would say.
Yeah.
It's a funny moment. So the crew is standing, they're at their posts in the bridge, and they're taping, they're reading letters from kids that are in 4th grade, and they have very basic questions like, how where does it go when you flush? You know.
Yeah.
But I found it to be a funny scene. I liked it. Scott Bakula's acting in that moment, it was very stiff and rigid, like he should be, because he's trying to act like
he's trying to be
like I'm a professional captain. Yeah. I have to be for these school kids back on Earth. It was very funny. I found it. The scene needed something. It needed the point of view of the recording itself, because they were all looking at the view screen, but it never showed that point of view.
Right.
Like to have like a little record symbol in the corner.
Yeah.
And I felt like it missed that. And
That's a good point.
It made it feel a little awkward at times.
You're right. That would have been really cool if we did see that from the view screen's perspective. Like you said, the recording, like a little record button up at the top.
And you have like the frame guides.
So that the whole action plays out like the video will see, or that the kids would
and the
see.
audio would change so it sounds like recorded audio.
Yeah, that's, you know what? You're 100% right. Yeah. That would have been really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah, because it was a bit confusing at first, as I thought, are they just sound recording this, or is it visual?
No,
but they all were looking at it. I was like, okay,
recording.
no, it's video recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the questions were funny.
But it was fun. It was a lighthearted moment. I thought it was
there was the two
good
key
addition.
questions that were good, which was, are people allowed to date on the Enterprise?
They're right.
And it's not discouraged, he says, but
it's like,
there's really not a lot of privacy on a
lot
ship.
of room. But if they want to, there's like plenty of places where they can look at the stars. Which is a very G-rated way of putting it.
And you could see he's like, oh God, what did I just do? But then the question about where do you flush your waste?
What happens when you flush? And then I thought that it's a poop question, sir.
They're gonna think I'm the sanitation engineer.
The way the intonation always stuck in my memory. A poop question. I was like, yeah.
And he does actually give a little bit of Star Trek science there.
I wish instead of saying sanitation engineer, I wish you would have gone with something
waste
lower.
Extraction.
Like, they're going to think I'm the ship's janitor, sir.
No, that'd be insulting to janitors. Can't do that.
I guess. I just thought that would have been funnier.
No, yeah. But that's why
they think I'm the Joe Dirt of the ship.
But I do like the Star Trek science there, where he breaks it down and he goes, well, we put the waste in this unit that breaks it down into molecules, and then this other unit can reform those molecules into useful things like boots.
It would have been funny
things like that.
If like is a kind of an in joke if he said, and we do have a bathroom right off the bridge just in case, like because we always wonder where the bathroom was.
Yeah, or make the joke, the ship has plenty of them, but we always feel like we can't find them, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, just as a little wink to audiences. That would have been funny. Yeah. That's good. So, like we were with the A plot, the boys are stuck in the shuttle pod in the hole they were trying to, because it collapsed on them. They fell into the ice, and they got stuck on a lip.
Well, we kind of
Well, no, we were caught up to that point.
Right. They get out.
Well, yeah, but they got out because the Vulcans offered the assistance. And they used a tractor beam, which of course the humans don't have.
No.
And Vulcans
are very impressed by.
Pulled them right out like butter.
Yeah.
And of course they get back safely, and Archer does thank the Vulcan for his help. Vanik. And of course he was like, okay, whatever, moving on. It was a nice button. And then, then it cuts back to the whole thing where Trip gives to Paul the moment to make her choice.
The B plot wasn't, I mean, it connected in that way that was breaking the ice with their relationship, but the B plot didn't thread in entirely.
Oh, no, not really. It's just at the end of that, because that ship was there was an option to...
Yeah, it was loosely connected.
Only in the sense that...
Sometimes the A and the B plot really kind of dovetail nicely together. Sometimes they don't, but that's fine.
This way they did, because T'Pol could use this ship to go back to Vulcan if she decided to go ahead and do this marriage thing.
Well, that's how she got the message in the first place.
Right. But Trip gives her this look like, hey, okay, you got a couple minutes left.
Are your bags packed? What are you doing?
What are you going to do? And she tells the ship to basically say bye, like she's not going to go. And that was great. They kind of saved that as the last little bit, even though, of course, we know she's not really going to do it. But you don't know what her character is going to do in response to it. Is she going to say no or delay it or what? You don't really know. All we know is that she wasn't going on that ship. And, of course, we know from watching the series that this does come back. But, and then it buttons in that nice little bit at the end, which we enjoyed.
Yeah, I don't think we missed anything. Overall, I would just call it, it was pretty solid. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I think this is probably the best episode so far of the series.
You think so?
I think so. It was pretty well done. I think it was pretty well balanced.
Prior to that, let's see. Which one did we say we thought was the best at that point? Let's see.
Unexpected.
Unexpected. That's right.
Yeah.
How do you think this compares to Unexpected?
Oh,
Better?
it's much better.
Okay.
I mean, Unexpected is still good too, but this is just a stronger, more engaging episode. I mean, the drama of both situations is very intriguing.
It is.
We get to explore a relationship between two characters that hadn't really gotten to have a scene together yet. It wasn't wholly antagonistic, you know?
Right.
But it was a fully fleshed out scene, and they got to connect on a level that I don't think characters really have yet.
Not really.
Not really.
Not yet.
So it was good. I thought it was really well done. So
well,
unless there's
down to grades,
anything else you wanted to add, or
no, I think that really hit everything. I enjoyed. It's brief, sort of, but they do not explore this dynamic often, to the best of my memory with the series. But the little bit of dynamic between Mayweather and Malcolm, you know, on the.
Well, I know we don't see those two characters together often.
Not often,
no.
But I did enjoy them together. Especially, you know, like it's so funny because I have this impression of Malcolm of just, you know, stiff British officer, but he's the one that cuts it up half the time.
Yeah, Malcolm was the one encouraging Mayweather.
I know.
So
that's what I mean. Like like I say that, yet here he is. He's the one starting the shit.
Yeah,
and it's not the first time. You know, when they in the pilot episode, when they're down there on the planet watching the colored women, like blue and orange colored women dancing, it's Malcolm and Trip oogling.
Oh, right.
And then something else happens in between that episode and this, where Malcolm again is like, he's kind of just being a boy, you know, and maybe he stiffens up as the series goes on, because I don't know why I have that impression of him being that way. I think he does. I think he stiffens up.
Does he? I guess I don't have that impression, but maybe I'll be
feel like
wrong.
that because
I'm not sure.
These moments are a surprise to me when they happen. And like you said, with the snowman, he's the instigator, you know, and maybe it's because he's with Mayweather, and Mayweather is just so childlike and kind of fun. Like you want to play.
He's very impressionable.
Yeah, and you just want to play. But this was so spearheaded by Malcolm, which was enjoyable because it's always fun to see the stiff upper lip guy do things like that. Like, it's not unlike Picard when he had the what was it? Timeless? No, not Timeless. The one where the Enterprise is kind of frozen and they have to go on and they're still moving at normal speed, and the warp core is exploded.
Oh, I know what it is. I can't remember.
And
he
draws the happy face.
Yes.
You know, it's just funny. And then Picard's like, "Hey, look." You know, it's always funny to see that guy do something like that. So seeing Malcolm do that was extra amusing. You know, if it had been Trip, it wouldn't have been as funny. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It was fun to see him do that and Mayweather laugh him on, you know, and then they blow it up.
Yeah, that was funny.
And they put Vulcan ears on it, for crying out loud.
That was a nice touch.
After they were told to stop.
Yeah, they kept going.
Yeah, Archer's like, you know, we're being watched.
It's like, yeah, it won't be there for long, but then it was there.
And then he proceeded to put Vulcan ears on it and then blew it up.
Yeah.
And he finally got to blow something up.
That's true.
Which has been a goal of his for
It has
some time.
been, yeah. So I'm going to grade this one an A.
Okay.
I think it's by far the best episode I've seen so far. Just a solid A, not an A- or A+, just a good A. What about you?
Well, I had an idea what I was going to say, but now you're making me rethink it. Okay, I'm gonna equal you on that. I'm gonna say an A. I'm gonna give it an A. I was originally thinking maybe a B+, but then like in the split second, as you said A, I thought to myself, well, whenever we grade something like a B+, what have you, my question to you is always, well, what could they have done that would have made it an A? And I honestly can't think of really what I would have changed in this. I thought it all played rather well. So I think that's deserving of an A. Like, I really wouldn't change anything. Maybe to make it an A+, I don't know, spice the action music up a little bit, but I mean, that's nitpicking. It was a solid episode, and I really wouldn't change anything.
I wouldn't change anything.
No, not at all.
And that episode of TNG, it's Timescape.
Timescape.
It was driving me crazy.
I knew it had time in it. Okay.
Okay. Well,
no!
Very good impression there. I think that's all I had to say.
Yeah, I'd say that pretty much does it.
All right. See you in the next one.
All right.